What you're about to witness is exactly what's wrong with WWE's developmental system right now. And before you click away, no, I'm not talking about poor booking or lackluster storylines. I'm talking about something far more sinister. Something that happened just days ago that has the entire NXT locker room divided. And frankly, it should have you absolutely furious too. Picture this. You're Kit Wilson. You've been grinding in the Performance Center for months, perfecting your craft, waiting for your moment to shine. You're told you're getting TV time. Finally, your big break. You walk through that curtain with dreams of making an impact, of showing the world what you're made of. And then, bam, you're not in a match. You're in a massacre. Femi, all 270 pounds of him, just demolished Kit Wilson in what WWE is calling an impromptu match. But here's what they're not telling you, and here's why you need to pay attention. This wasn't a match. This was a public execution designed to send a message, and that message should terrify every single person who dreams of making it in professional wrestling. I'm about to expose exactly what happened, why it matters, and why this could be the beginning of something that changes NXT forever. Stick around, because what I'm about to reveal will blow your mind. Let's set the scene properly, because context is everything here. NXT has been undergoing a massive transformation. We've seen the brand shift from its black and gold roots to the colorful, youth-oriented 2.0, and now into this hybrid version that's trying to recapture some of that original magic while still appealing to a mainstream audience. And at the center of this new NXT stands Femi, the ruler, the conqueror, the man who's been positioned as an unstoppable force. Now, I want you to understand something about Femi. This isn't your typical developmental talent. This man is a specimen. 6'4", 270, moves like someone half his size, and has a presence that genuinely feels special. WWE clearly sees something in him. They're protecting him, building him, making him look like an absolute monster. And you know what? That's fine. That's how you build stars. But here's where things get controversial, and here's where I need you to really think critically about what's happening. Kit Wilson, and let's be real, most casual fans probably didn't even know his name before this, was essentially served up as a sacrificial lamb. Reports from backstage sources indicate that Kit was told he'd be getting an opportunity, a chance to showcase what he could do. What he wasn't told was that he was walking into a slaughter designed to make Femi look even more dominant than he already does. The match, if you can even call it that, lasted less than 90 seconds. 90 seconds. Femi hit the ring like a freight train with no brakes. Kit Wilson barely got any offense in. We're talking maybe 1 or 2 strikes that looked like they bounced off Oba's chest like rubber bullets hitting a tank. And then it was over. Powerbomb, pin, done. Kit Wilson's opportunity amounted to being turned into a highlight reel for someone else's dominance. Now here's where the controversy really begins, and this is where I need you to drop a comment and let me know if you agree or disagree with what I'm about to say. Some people are defending this. They're saying, that's wrestling. Someone has to lose. That's how you build monsters. That's how you create stars. And you know what? They're not entirely wrong. Goldberg was built on a streak of squash matches. Brock Lesnar demolished people. Braun Strowman tossed around local competitors like they were nothing. But here's the difference, and this is crucial. Those squash matches were against enhancement talent, jobbers, people who knew their role was to lose and make someone else look good. Kit Wilson was supposedly being given an opportunity, a chance to prove himself. Instead, he was fed to the wolf without even a warning. And this brings me to the real issue that nobody's talking about. What message does this send to the locker room? What message does this send to every young talent grinding in the Performance Center, hoping for their shot? It tells them that when your number gets called, you might not actually be getting an opportunity. You might just be the next victim in someone else's highlight package. Let's talk about the psychology here, because this is where it gets really interesting and really dark. In developmental territories, confidence is everything. These performers are still learning, still growing, still trying to find their characters and their footing. When you put someone in a position where they're absolutely destroyed on television, where they don't get to show any of their capabilities, where they're made to look weak and incompetent in front of the world, what does that do to their confidence? What does that do to their development? And before you say I'm being soft, before you say that's the business, let me hit you with some facts. Some of the greatest stars in wrestling history were protected during their developmental phases. They were given competitive matches where they could win or lose, but still look credible. They were allowed to showcase their skills even in defeat. That's how you develop talent. That's how you create the next generation of main eventers. What happened to Kit Wilson wasn't development, it was demolition.
Now, let's talk about Femi's perspective because it's only fair we look at both sides here. From Oba's standpoint, he's doing exactly what he's told to do. He's playing his role perfectly. He's the dominant champion, the unstoppable force, and when he's told to go out there and destroy someone, he does it with ruthless efficiency. And honestly, he's good at it. The man has charisma, presence, and legitimately looks like he could be a future world champion on the main roster. But here's my question for Oba, and I'd love for him to address this. Does he ever wonder about the cost of his push? Does he ever think about the careers that are being sacrificed to build his? Because let me tell you something about wrestling history. The guys who became the biggest stars, the most beloved champions, were the ones who could make their opponents look good even while beating them. Think about Shawn Michaels. Think about Bret Hart. Think about AJ Styles. These men could have competitive matches with anyone and elevate their opponents even in victory. That's what makes a true superstar, not just the ability to win, but the ability to create magic with whoever you're in the ring with. Right now, Femi is being booked like a video game character on easy mode, and while that might create short-term impact, I'm genuinely concerned about what happens when he eventually does lose. When you've been built as completely invincible and you've never had truly competitive matches, that first loss hits different. Just ask Goldberg how that worked out. But let's get back to Kit Wilson, because his story deserves to be told. After the match, Kit reportedly went backstage and, according to sources, was absolutely devastated. And who could blame him? He'd been waiting for his moment, and when it came, it lasted less time than it takes to microwave a burrito. There are unconfirmed reports that he's questioning whether he even wants to continue pursuing wrestling, and that is what should make every wrestling fan angry. How many potential future stars are we losing because they're being used as cannon fodder instead of being developed properly? How many Kit Wilsons are out there who had the potential to be something special, but got their confidence shattered before they ever really got started? This is bigger than one match. This is bigger than Femi versus Kit Wilson. This is about the system, about how WWE developmental is operating, and whether they're actually developing talent or just feeding bodies to whoever they've decided is their next big thing. And here's the twist that nobody saw coming. Kit Wilson posted something on social media after the match. He didn't complain. He didn't blame anyone. He simply said, "Every setback is a setup for a comeback." Now, that could be just positive thinking, or it could be a message that he's not done yet. And if WWE is smart, if they're really smart, they'll use this as a springboard for a redemption story. Imagine Kit Wilson coming back stronger, more determined, actually getting training and development, and eventually getting a real match against Femi where he can showcase what he's actually capable of. Imagine the storytelling potential there. Imagine the crowd getting behind the underdog who was destroyed but refused to quit. But that only happens if WWE cares enough to follow through, and based on their track record with developmental talent, I'm not holding my breath. Look, here's the bottom line. Wrestling is built on the illusion of competition. When matches become too one-sided, too predictable, too much like predetermined exhibitions rather than fights, we lose that magic that makes wrestling special. We lose the suspension of disbelief that makes us care about the outcomes. Femi is talented enough that he doesn't need 90-second squash matches to look dominant. He's good enough to have competitive matches and still win convincingly. And Kit Wilson, along with every other developmental talent, deserves better than to be human crash test dummies for someone else's push. The question now is, what happens next? Does NXT learn from this and start booking their developmental talent in ways that actually develop them? Or do we see more Kit Wilsons sacrificed at the altar of whichever superstar they're building this month? And here's what I want you to think about. If you were in Kit Wilson's position, if you'd worked your entire life to get to WWE and your big moment was being destroyed in 90 seconds, how would you feel? Would you have the strength to keep going? Would you post that positive message about comebacks, or would you walk away from the business entirely? This is the reality of modern wrestling development, and it's time we had an honest conversation about it. So here's what I need from you right now. If you think WWE was wrong for how they booked Kit Wilson, drop a comment saying, "Protect young talent." If you think this is just how the business works and Kit needs to pay his dues, drop a comment saying, "That's wrestling." Let's see where the WrestleScope community stands on this issue. And listen, if you made it this far, you're clearly invested in the behind-the-scenes reality of wrestling, not just the surface-level entertainment. That means you're exactly the kind of fan we want in this community. So smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications because we're going to keep bringing you the real stories, the controversial takes, and the discussions that other channels are afraid to have. Share this video with every wrestling fan you know because this conversation needs to be bigger. WWE needs to hear us. NXT needs to know that we're paying attention to how they treat their developmental talent. I'm your host at WrestleScope, and until next time, keep watching, keep questioning, and keep demanding better for the future of professional wrestling.